Okay, the February patch notes. Are this. Core 2, core tier 2 air damage versus vehicles are gonna be increased. The damage, so that's Banshees, Hornets, Sentinels, as in Protector Sentinels, also the Leader Power Sentinels from Anders, as well as the Kodiak Spawn Sentinels. They're all going to be better against Scouts by 9%. It's a very small increase, but okay. Against core vehicles, so the tier 2 medium vehicles, which are Warthog, Marauder, etc. Not, however, not the anti-air vehicles, and not the Kodiak, because the Kodiak is actually heavy. Okay, so 4% only. 4. I don't think that's gonna make the air units beat the core vehicles well enough. I just don't see it. Although the Hornets will be faster, so they'll be able to catch up with Hogs. Klopp's Hornet army is coming back, yes. I mean, it's gonna be nice to counter the scouts like that, but you're not gonna ever face scouts. Regardless of these changes. Because we'll see what there will be later. Yeah, we need more on damage versus core vehicles. This is too small. This is crazy. That's just crazy, okay? These vehicles cannot shoot up with half their weapons. With the main guns, none of the heavy vehicles can shoot up, which means that they get automatically pretty hard countered by air. It should have been really the other way around. Heavy buff for this, smaller buff for this. Damage to Serena and Forge Hero unit increased. Okay, that's good. Not the Jerome, however. I mean, yes, Jerome too, because he just didn't list it. But they're the same group. Okay, I know there will be a cost reduction. We'll get to that. So the core tier 2 vehicles will do less damage versus air and buildings. That's good. That's a good thing. So it will help the air units win that interaction a little bit. I'm just not thinking that this is great still, because if you go vehicles, you automatically get to make anti-air vehicles, right? You're on that tech path. You don't need to change around your buildings anymore, which makes such a small change to this tech path interaction not very noticeable. This is going to be very noticeable, however, definitely. But this is what we were worried about all this time when it comes to air, and thanks for that photo. Okay, Scouts versus Rush Infantry, 11%, 10%, that's nothing. Okay, they tickle the Rush Infantry right now. Enforcers fuck Scouts. There's no nicer way to put this. They fuck them. If you go Scouts and the other guy goes Enforcer, you lose as a Scout player. That's not okay. It's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be an absolute hard counter, because that's the only job of Scouts, to go to places quickly and pick up a mini base, pick up resources, to see what the enemy is doing, and to kill the Russian. That's it. Nothing else. That's Scouts. Everything else, wreck Scouts. Don't let the Russian infantry win. This is still not enough, especially for Enforcers. Enforcers need a special change against Scouts, a massive nerf, because they just beat them. There's no point in going Scouts. They do massive damage against them. Okay, for the rest, Cryo Troopers are a problem for Scouts, okay? Like, they need to reduce the amount of chill. I don't care that Enforcers are expensive, so are Scouts. What's your point? It's literally more expensive to make Scouts than Enforcers. Okay, so Scouts versus Rush. Yes, What was I saying? Yeah, the cryo troopers. They do decent damage, but they take a shit ton more. And if you have Conduit of Rage, then the Enforcers win. Sure, the Scouts win just by themselves, but you're always gonna proc a Conduit of Rage. Anyway, to continue, the Cryo Troopers freeze the Scout vehicles very quickly, especially in the aura. Like, if a scout touches the aura, which the jackrabbits pretty much by default will be doing because of the way they path, that is a huge problem, and that needs to be reduced specifically. No, jackrabbits can heal. Scouts can't heal. Jackrabbits can heal. Ghosts can't really. They're shields, so that's a different mechanic altogether, and it's very slow to come back. You have to disengage, and in the meantime, the enforcers will wreck you. Also, we have to look at the case where you don't automatically go scouts at the opening, but you reactively make scouts because you see that. They definitely need to go a little more, and the enforcers particularly because they have a unique damage type, which does more to scouts than the other rush units. That is not okay. Arbiter should have to go ghosts against the other scouts. Okay, anti-air vehicles got reduced again. That's good. And to compensate for the damage increase, they have made the air units tougher as well. Where is that? Why didn't they just say it here? It's a bit messy. Okay. Anyway, there's more to talk about there. AA change was crazy, and they're pretty much reverting it, so that's good. I think they should do 15% at least, but ideally 20. But at least 15 instead of this 11% and 10%. So both should be like around 15% more damage, and then the enforcers need to be nerfed against scouts in the damage they do. Yeah, you'll have other units to help you, but what? Some core infantry? It's not going to do a lot against the enforcers because they were made to not do a lot of damage against them. So unless you open like mass snipers, no. Enforcers shouldn't counter builds where you go core infantry and then swap into scouts as a reaction. Tier 3 because none of the other rush units can do that. Okay, tier 3 tanks. More damage against pretty much everything else except other tanks. That's odd. That's weird because the tank versus tank interaction will now slow down. That's not a good thing if this interaction slows down because it plays out beautifully right now. So I feel that something is being touched that's not necessary to be touched. I don't think there's a single person who's complaining about the pacing of tank versus tank. Tank versus scout damage increased, who cares? That scenario never happens. Tanks versus tier 2 vehicles damage increased by 19%. They already win very handily, and this is only going to make them win harder by the viabilities. Tanks versus AA increased, okay, I mean, again, that fight ideally wouldn't happen, because the AA are pretty long-ranged. Tanks not so much, except the Colossus and the Wraith. Tanks versus building, yes, that was necessary. They need to be base crackers. uh, yeah, they do have phantom changes further down, So the Retriever got made more expensive, more pop, that's good. Shield slightly reduced by 20%, and can gain veterancy, much better. Close air support health increased. It does drop to AA very, very quick, so that's fine. Yeah. Enduring salvo damage increased by 5%. Okay, 5%, not very much. So I'm not quite sure about that one. It isn't a very strong power. I'll agree with that. I'm not. I think it's a little careful there. There are Belgium Analyzer. There are patience, my young Padawan. Serena. Frostraven health increased. Yes. Frostravens drop like flies to anti-air, especially after the buff. So this basically negates what the AA buff has done, because they still do more AoE than before, but it got lowered. And increasing the health of the core of the smaller air units means that they'll be better able to handle themselves against against that incoming fire. But en masse, it will mean that they'll still take a little bit more. Chill rate on power nodes decreased. Okay, it's not bad, but you're forgetting about the slow. If a unit touches an ice field or a goo field, infusion I mean, that will mean that that unit is basically gonna stop in its tracks and not move, especially if it's a vehicle. It's just the pathing is broken, and by nerfing the slow value, at least you can slightly affect that. Okay, Sergeant Johnson. Oh, I mean, cryo drop cost increase. Yeah, there's a bunch of drops that cost less than the actual units, which is not healthy. Johnson. Turret damage issue. Okay, if you actually got digging in, you decrease the DPS of your turrets. That was bad, so I'm glad they fixed that. Gains veterancy 10% faster. Should be like the other units, see heroes now, which is good because it's very hard to get stars as Johnson. It should help him in the mid game quite a bit. Decreased cost of Stomp to 700 power, still too much. Better than it was. No, the Frost Raven was not buffed. This is a compensation for the air change, the anti-air change. Anti-air does more damage to high numbers of air units because of the splash, and this negates that. Okay, Kinsano, fix the bug with grenade launcher upgrade for Flamehogs. No, not enough. What the hell? One Flamehog will do less damage to infantry units than a normal hog. Okay, you attack a normal infantry unit with a flame hog, it will be worse than a normal hog. If you attack a building with a flame hog, it will be worse than the normal hog. Not good enough. It needs way more. Okay, Forge. It's very necessary. Oh, wait. Wait, I stand corrected. I stand corrected, guys. Okay, this is fine. This was supposed to be 2 bullet points, but it didn't end up being bullet points. So the DPS of the Flamehog itself was increased by 5%, which should bring it in line with the Hog and actually make it better at doing its job, which is countering infantry and beating down buildings. And they fixed the grenade launcher upgrade. No, but if 1 versus 1 it's not enough, you know. Yeah, plus the 5%, like Rockgen is saying. Okay, I'm willing to test it. For sure. It should be fine. Maybe it needs a little more than 5, but we'll see. Okay. An army with a Forge Hog mixed in is slightly more dominant, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Health reduced, doesn't matter. Forge Hog defensive or damage mitigation reduced. That matters. That's very good. That's very good. We needed that for a long time. Grizzly Battalion cost increased to 3k. That might be a little too much. If you go that high on the cost, it would be nice if accelerated assembly would reduce it. I think it's a little too much, and then this cost got increased. Yeah, yeah, I don't like that with the shields. Pavium. Mega turret cost increase. Okay, I mean that's just the first mega turret, and then the scaling is gonna be the same, so you're gonna be able to get to that high number just the same. Pretty much. I think the scaling should have been a bit touched up. Wraith Invader DPS reduced. Okay, there were some cases where they would just beat some core units very easily, right? So I'm very happy to see that. It will also reduce its siphon. Pop cost, that might be overkill, but alright. Hit points, okay, that's definitely overkill. They weren't that OP. They're very hard to get out in a high number. Now it's going to be impossible, so I don't like the Pavium nerfs. This is not the right way to nerf Pavium. There was one thing that was obscenely broken with Pavium. No, Wraith Invaders did not need that nerf. That's ridiculous. Just because you can make a full-pop army of it beat some tier 2 units, that's fine. That's genuinely fine. If you go anti-vehicle units against it, they will wreck it. You cannot reasonably go for Wraith Invaders in an actual game and win. It's not feasible. If you have a super late game scenario and you pump them out, it will take you minutes to do. Like your mega turrets will have to cover for you and the hero. And even then, the anti-vehicle armies are actually... It's overkill. What needed to happen to Pavium was one super critical thing, which is the hero viability slow, which is stupid because it makes your army basically stand in place, then you pop mines on them and everything dies. That needs to be fixed. And this should be probably partially reverted, I think. A little too hard there on the nerf. Probably back to 4 pop, I want to say. No, Wraith Invaders shouldn't beat them. They already got reduced in DPS. That's enough. That's more than enough. Also, it takes forever to make them. They're a 4th point APC. I just think the 3 nerfs are too much. Give it 1 or 2, but not 3. They're not that strong. It's not realistic to expect someone to build up a high number. You'll have a max of 3 bases, so you'll triple pump them at best. Whereas the other guy can do way more than that. Production-wise and economy-wise, it is not a feasible army. Colony. Devastating host increase. Yes, it was cheaper to drop than make. Arbiter. Finally, Phantom heal rate reduced. So this will reduce all incoming healing, including Conduit of Rage, as well as the health decrease. Well, either of the two. Just get rid of the one change, on that. That's too much. Yap. Methane shell slightly increased. That's okay. It's gonna help against slow armies. Yap does need some help, not too much. And the methane wagon buff will help against the rush infantry and anti-infantry. Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard to select the exact guys that are under the effect. Xbox is just terrible to play against it. Decimus's Fury health cost got reduced. That's good. So we'll be able to use Fury now. I'm shocked that I'm a bit surprised that Siphon hasn't been changed for Decimus. So two things need to happen to Decimus, okay? Boundless Siphon needs to go back on the Warlord. Hear me out. I know it's OP if you just do that. What you need to do is put it back and reduce the Warlord's health from the upgrades. Okay? Like, if you do that, what will happen is he'll still have it, like he's always been intended to. All the units of Decimus are supposed to have Boundless Siphon. And it was put in as an emergency workaround for the Boundless Siphon glitch, where they keep siphoning even after they don't attack anymore. Which is wrong. It got never fixed, which is the problem. But if you reduce the incoming healing for the Warlord or reduce his health, it's going to be balanced again. Okay. Fury health cost decreased by 40% is going to make it very viable if you put Fury under an engineer shield. It's going to be a really good power now. Okay, Shipmaster Tactical Gateway cooldown reduced. Not a very meaningful change. Teleport 2 max distance increased a little bit. Okay, that's a good thing. Shippy needs some help. He probably needs some effect buff on level 1 and 2 of Raid because it doesn't have an immediate effect. It's kind of like a weaker recon training on Raid. He could also use some other changes, maybe. Who knows? Okay, to Aatrox over nerfed. Fortification reduction to expansion bases increased by 3%. So this 3% isn't 3% to the effect, but it's 3% total. So we're going to be pretty close to each level taking off 25%. It's going to be like 23% for each level, actually. Shipmaster is cancer. Yeah, I don't want them to overbuff Shipmaster. Okay, so this is close to what's needed. It needs to be a bit more. Bases should... Okay, when you upgrade level 1, a base should cost less by 100 supply and 50 power. If you upgrade it again, it should cost that much less again. So the final base cost should be 300 and 100. That will be great for fast expanse. And other leaders need to be able to do fast expanse as well. If the bases took 10 seconds less to come in, that would do it already. Maybe the first upgrade of the base, when it turns from 3 slot to 5 slot, that could also be 10 seconds faster. Is there no change to Fast Tech 2? Seriously, rushes are still going to be useless. Yep, there's no change to it. Oh my god. Okay, Hornets health increased by 8%. Oh, and eradication gets a little more damage. I don't buy it. It's just too slow. And yeah, they didn't fix Aatrox's brutes. That's not a good thing. Hornets have been improved, so they're gonna have more health, more DPS on the base guns, and they're gonna be cheaper. That seems like a very affordable price. So we'll be able to double, triple pump them quite early. Yeah, we should be able to triple pump Hornets, actually, with 3 minis. If we have 3 mini bases, we should be able to triple pump Hornets. Fast Insano Hornets, I think it's possible. Especially this, speed increase is massive. And the way it's going to scale with Redline is crazy. They're gonna be faster than Banshees, I think. Yeah. Wait a second. I believe Redline gives 25% to Hornets. Or 20% at least. Oh my good god, they're gonna be as fast as a chopper. Oh my god. I think infantry against air is fine. Yeah. Okay, Kodiaks. Build time increased. Cost increased. Cost is not going to be felt. Build time is going to be felt. That's good. Outer ring splash reduced a little bit. That's a very tiny reduction. Oh, actually, it's the damage in that ring is also heavily reduced. So that's good. Nightingales a little less healing to each other. In high numbers, Nightingales really heal each other fast. Health increased a little bit. That's good. Sniper, stanchion rifle, DPS more. I mean, I guess. No comment. It doesn't matter. Vortogs. Vortogs pop. Okay. And they had the damage versus buildings reduced. I think they'll still beat Cyclops because you can just skirt them and screw up the Nightingales, and without that they'll beat Cyclops. The Ram does too much against Cyclops, basically. If the Ram was reducing against Cyclops, I could see it being viable. Also, Isabel going Vortox is absolutely disgusting. Like, this... No, this is... What? A rush to Tech 2 and pushing Vortox out has become a highly effective strategy. This change will make the rush to Tech 2 a little less attractive to hopefully diversify builds and reduce the effectiveness of a Vortox dominated mid-game. No, it will not. This does not affect the opening that is fast Tech 2 Vortogs. This change changes the maximum number of Vortogs by the time it's around 7 to 8 minutes. It does not affect the opening of Fast Tech 2. When Vortogs come out, they'll be just the same against the Rush infantry and the core infantry and the scouts and everything. Well, scouts are not bad against Hawks, actually. But they'll melt a Rush. No change to it. I'll go Fast Tech 2 Hogs just the same. I'll just have 4 less Warthogs or 6 less Warthogs or whatever. Yeah, this changes Vortex in the late game. This isn't a Fast Tech 2 change. This is a late game change. Which was needed because the Warthogs were the most population effective vehicle in the game. But that wasn't the problem that we really needed to address. I'm glad it has been done because it needed to be done, but it was less important than changing Tech 2 timings. I mean, we were closely talking to Postums, and I don't want to discredit the guy because he's done an awesome patch here. A lot of this is fantastic. But there was nothing more important than slowing down Tech 2. Because we can't play Tech 1. These guys come out and they fuck us up immediately. There's no way to go about it. I agree that this should be 4-pop, and it's a good change. I fully support it, but that wasn't the key. Explain the Kodiak change. It means that you get an impact here. There's a small zone around it that does some damage. There's a bigger zone around it that does even more damage. Sorry, that does even less damage on the outside, and that outside damage was reduced. Okay, Condor got its health buffed. Honestly, doesn't matter that much. It's not that strong. Turn rate, that's good. It turns really slow. But yeah, 5%, not that much. Banished. Banshee health increased by 7%. Why did... What? Are you telling me that the higher HP unit, the Hornet, got a bigger percentile increase than the lower health unit, the Banshee? Why does the Hornet get more health than the Banshee? And a much bigger buff? The Banshee is trash. The only scenario where it's good is with Decimus's passives uh, and then the active siphon. Active siphon wasn't changed, even though Postum said that he will change it. I think it might be coming next patch, but I don't know. It's fine, but it's not enough. Hornets cost more. Yes. Well, yeah. I just think that Banshees are weak. And I'm not sure if this change is enough to achieve what has been done with Hornets to the same effect. I think Hornets, especially with Kinsano, it's the first thing all of us will do. And we warned and warned and warned, and there's no change to the Hornet speed up from Kinsano. Blister back. For a tier 3 unit, they were underperforming compared to Kodiaks. These changes make their artillery mode a near match to how Kodiaks perform. But they have like 75% of the Kodiak's range. So they won't be able to fight Kodiaks like that. It's not comparable. At least you can lift off and fly, but yeah. There's going to be a lot of people whining about the air buffs, yes, of course. But this isn't the problem. The vehicle changes aren't the problem. Just Kinsano, with her stupid red line buff that would have been a one number change. Just compensate for it, man. Reduce it to like 10% instead of 20, and you'll be fine. Sure, they'll be a little faster than Banshees, but come on. It's such an obvious oversight. Elites. Base DPS increased. I guess they are not that good right now in the meta because we're going so many vehicles. If we were to use more infantry, they'd be fine, but we don't. We go heroes and vehicles, so they kinda get shreked in that slugfest. This is good. They should be glass cannony, relatively speaking. Damage versus air. It's an anti-infantry unit, so I really don't understand, but it's not strong against air, so this isn't gonna do anything. Which is okay. Slight engineer buff. That's much needed. I think it should have probably been 15% for that guy. And I hope they didn't increase the infused engineer because that is very healthy already. Hunters. Movement speed increased. Fine. That's good. Shroud. It will help them catch up with some of the vehicles. Almost all the tanks are faster. So 12, I think, matches Scorpions. Shrouds are a bit too hard to use in frontline combat on account of their slow speed and low durability. Yes, so health increase, good. Movement speed increase from 10 to 11, also good. It will help it move along with the army, but it will still slow everything down, even the hunters. Maybe should have been 12. 11 is just very slow. Scarab should be back. 5% on hit points and 15% on all damage. That's really good. And some Blitz, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't play Blitz. That's everything. My missing elements are four very, very, very important changes. Maybe even five. One, Tech 2. Slow it down by at least 15 seconds. Maybe 10. Maybe at least 10. I'm going to say at least 10 seconds. It needs to be slower. We can't rush. We can't open core infantry because we get wrecked when we do. So sad. It makes me very sad that I have to rush tech 2 so often. What else is there? Yeah, very important. Scouts need to be better by a lot. And only against rush units, and very slightly in the cost department. So take that buff against rush units from scouts, double it. Nerf the UNSC anti-infantry turrets, that's number 3. Oh, and for the scouts, the enforcers need to do less to scouts. Yes. Absolutely nerf anti-infantry turrets off UNSC only. And if you want, you can make the anti-vehicles better on both sides. Banished turrets just don't hit anything, so they kind of suck. Even if they do, they suck. Marine buff, no. Okay, what else is there that we absolutely need? So, okay, Voridus still has a Maelstrom that cannot be dodged. That needs to be a 2.5 or even 3-second telegraph because it's crazy. It makes armies disappear and it's very quick to cool down. So the cooldown, no, didn't even say that. Cooldown isn't the problem. The problem is that it blows up an army, and making back an army costs 1 million resources. Kinsano speed buff needs to be reduced. UNSC turrets, yep, like Rock Generation is saying just now. And yeah, the Kinsano speed buff on Hornets only, reduce that. And reduce the viability and nuking of the Pavium hero, and that's it. That's the big things that we've missed from this patch. And then we can talk about the rest later. Because it's getting hard to predict what will happen. And first day is indeed patch day.